this is a video that is kind of near and dear to my heart. This is what I always find happens a lot to guitar players. They go to restring a guitar and then they notice something like, hey, there's something wrong here. In this case, Dave's guitar, this beautiful Epiphone with this gold sparkle top that he bought used at a good deal, but he found out when he checked the electronics to upgrade, they had already been upgraded with even some Slash Seymour Duncan pickups. So he was obviously pleasantly surprised. Later on, when he was going to restring the guitar, he noticed something a little alarming. There's a hairline crack between the fretboard and the neck, and it goes down almost to the 3rd fret. So it looks like on the treble side, about to right past the 2nd fret, and on the bass side, just almost to the fret marker on the 3rd fret. Obviously, the guitar got hit and it caused a flex. When it flexed the neck, sometimes it could just break the headstock off, but in this case, the flex caused the glue in the joint between the fretboard and the neck to flex, and it broke. Now this is an interesting thing because it goes against everything that you hear guitar techs on Luthier say all the time, which is if a neck breaks, it's not going to break where the glue is. And that's generally true, but in this case, we don't know how much glue they used. My guess is they left some pockets without glue, and that flexing caused the problem. So we're going to go ahead and just fix it. So how are we going to do that? This is why I wanted to show this to you, because he reached out to me for some advice. He said, hey, I was going to take it to my local repair shop and have them just kind of redo it. It was going to be very expensive what they were quoting him. So I'm going to show you how to do it, but more importantly, I'm going to show you how to make a repair like this using some things you can actually get on Amazon. Everything I'm using in this video, I bought off Amazon. The first thing I bought was some Titebond premium wood glue. This is the bigger bottle. You don't necessarily need to buy the bigger bottle, but I use a lot of wood glue, so I did. I will put the links to everything on Amazon down below. The next thing I bought is glue syringes, and they come with different tips for there you go, and relatively inexpensive. Now, of course, you can find all this stuff on StewMac and better quality stuff, but I know how troublesome it is to buy, expensive things for a one-time fix. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna glue in there. Now, there's a couple things. We could shove wax in there to make sure that none of the glue attaches itself to the truss rod. But in this case, I really believe we're not gonna have that much problem because we're not gonna put a ton of glue in there because the crack is not that the area is not that big to get a lot of glue in there. Now, what I want to do is I want to take the syringe, stick it in the glue, and suck the glue up. We don't need a ton in there. Now that we've done that, we can go ahead and take it off and put the smaller one, which is the pink one, which is very small. We got to pry this fretboard up a little bit. You can use a spatula. I'm going to use my pocket knife. Funny story, the very first one of these I ever did about 15, 20 years ago, I used a pocket knife and I just liked it. And I tried a couple different other ways, and this is the way that always kind of just stuck with me. And we're gonna flex this up just a little bit and start putting some of this glue in there. And you can be gracious with the glue, because again, we think that's where they messed up. The reason we're prying this is because we really want to get the glue as far down as possible. And it doesn't take a whole lot of glue. Don't worry about the glue seeping out. In fact, you're going to see it from this angle. Same thing as before. And like I said, don't worry if it comes out of the sides. There we go. Okay. And now we'll get the top. Okay. All right. Now we're going to notice we're going to push down. Glue comes right out. I'm going to just use our finger for that. And just press down lightly. We're going to go ahead and clamp it. Now, you can use surgical tubing. I actually just like a basic clamp. The reason why I'm using this clamp is because I want to press it in 2 spots. The first one is rubber, and if we press down correctly, we shouldn't see a ton of glue spewing out when we put a little more pressure here. So now what we can do, I use that same pocket knife just to get the glue out of there. If you're worried about your truss rod, what I suggest is during the drying time to go ahead and turn it a couple times. Like I said, the odds of you kind of gunking up the truss rod to where you can't turn it with wood glue is not very likely. The wood glue is not likely to bond to the metal. Now that that's clamped, we're just going to wait for it to dry. Now, of course, we want to let these sit for 24 hours. But in the first 30 minutes, there's a couple things that I suggest you do. One, if you want to turn the truss rod, you can. And you can do that very easily. Just go ahead and put your Allen wrench in there. You want to loosen it and then tighten it back up. Do that maybe half a dozen times in the first 30 minutes. Not a big deal. You won't have any problems. The other thing you want to do is take a cloth and put some warm water on it. It doesn't have to be warm. You can use room temp water, but warm is a little better. Make sure it's damp, not wet, because any of the crack in the wood will soak up the moisture. You just want to go ahead and wipe off the excess glue. It will come off very easy. So it's been 24 hours. Let's go ahead and check the truss rod, loosen it, tighten it. It's working perfectly. I'm going to go ahead and say it's safe to take these off and make sure that there's no damage to the back of the neck. And in his case, he's got a couple chips in the neck too. So now what you're going to notice is that because it broke, because the polyurethane or polyester finish here cracked when the split happened, it's going to feel rough on the sides. So your first inkling is going to want to be to sand that. I don't recommend you sand it. What I recommend is you take a X-Acto knife and very carefully, very lightly scrape the part that's sticking out. And you can feel it. Okay? And now what we want to do is you can take steel wool if you don't have micro mesh. I like micro mesh pads. I'm going to start with 1800. It's just a good grit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand it, but from the side of the binding. So in other words, I'm putting the weight on the binding, only the top little portion of the sandpaper. Because what I'm trying to do is blend it. When I say blend it, blend the way it feels. Almost there, super close. You don't have to get it perfectly flat. Do both sides. Go ahead and switch to a lighter grit. Let's do 6000, more of a polishing. Same thing, putting most of the weight on the binding. Oh, that's nice. Okay, so if you notice here, if you look closely, you're gonna see the line now that we smoothed it out, right? It's not chipped out, it's gonna be smooth, it's smooth to the touch. This feels perfect. But what if you don't want this line? Well, there's fixes that are pretty easy. You want to use clear nail polish. I like nail polish that dries in 5 minutes. And red dye. Put some nail polish in a little cup. Just a little dab will do you. You put a drop of red dye and then do the same thing. Do a little buff, and kind of like sand and buff right there again. And it will blend away and you won't see it. Now in this case, he's got significant nicks on the guitar, as you can see. So I'm going to say for the relic look of this guitar, I could do that for the aesthetics, but I'd rather spend the time in something a little bit more useful. And here's what I mean by that. If you look here, you can see that he has significant dents in his frets and chunks out of his fretboard. So we're going to spend some time taking care of that and set up his guitar. So that's where I'm going to spend the time. Now, what's great about that is to fix those dents in his fretboard, so you don't have to watch me do it here. Click the link down below, and it's a quick video to show you how to fix those same dents. So as you can see, these divots were really intense. So I was able to steam out most of them. As you can see, almost all of them are gone except for that one deep one, but the frets need to be leveled and polished. So I'm going to level them and show you my favorite way to polish them. So let's go ahead and polish up his frets. We're going to use a fret guard. Now this is an interesting tool by Musicnomad, and what's funny is I've been using this tool for many, many years. A friend of the channel made me a few of these and I've been using them, but now they're available to everyone through Musicnomad. And this is the 24 3/4 scale one. What you do is you go ahead and just hook the rubber bands like so. And this saves you time from not having to use a ton of painter's tape. But more importantly, in some cases like this Dremel, painter's tape's not the safest choice anyways, because it's pretty aggressive. Okay, safety first. This is something to point out. You can see here my Dremel wheel that I use has a little worn indentation in it. And what I use, believe it or not, is just a screwdriver. I take a screwdriver like this and I put it in a vise and I put the Dremel wheel here until it wears a groove in the Dremel wheel so it glides a little easier on the frets. So that's the way I like to do it. Let's go ahead and polish these frets up. Now, obviously, besides safety first, the only things I want to caution you with using a Dremel wheel on frets is, one, don't press too hard, and also be careful that you're not making the frets hot because that can damage them. And for the nut, you can use Titebond wood glue. You can use no glue. Some people use 2 dots of super glue. I'm not a big fan of super glue, like literally barely any glue at all. Just enough to where if I was to flick this, it would just pop off. When installing a nut, you want to put on the 2 E-strings first. So that is important. So I'm going to put on one, that way you can center up the nut and also, like I said, use them like a clamp. Okay. So now we finished the restringing the guitar and doing a light setup. It didn't require a whole lot. One of the questions I got from the patrons was, is this guitar going to need constant tuning now? No, it actually stays pretty stable. Now I'd like to point out that after I restringed the guitar and stretched the strings, played it a few times, I let it sit for a couple days. Now I did pick it up a few times each day just to check it, and every time I did check it, the guitar was slightly out of tune again. But now it's holding tune. Let's double check that. So the B was just a slight amount off, but of course, it was fine. So it's holding tune, no problem now, and it's playing fine. Now there's a couple things to think about. I want you to know that the crack that was on this neck was a very fine hairline crack, and that's why I didn't run any sandpaper or try to smooth out the 2 pieces of wood, you know, because sometimes you don't want to put glue where there's already kind of glue in there. You want to remove that glue out of there. But in this case, the crack was so fine, I didn't want to do anything to make the crack bigger. I felt pretty confident that if I just got some glue in there and we clamped it, it's just going to be fine. And it is. And it feels fine. Guitar plays great. Okay, so I mean, there's really no issues now. Of course, there's some issues, you know, aesthetically, because like I said, it's been a well-played guitar. The reason I do the Sharp and Axe videos is not to show you what you should do as a guitar tech. It's what can you do as a home hobbyist to fix up your guitar, because this repair could be expensive. The problem is, although I caution you, like all of these videos, you know, not just to run out and just do these things, but you know, the guitar is only worth $300 or $400. So sometimes if you put the work in yourself, it's a great way to save some money. That's why I like doing these videos. One last note is somebody asked if the guitar, do you have to take any special precautions now that it's been repaired? No, just play it. It's like I said, if it's going to break, it's going to break, but most likely it's not. And just play it like you normally would, enjoy it like you normally would, and it may last, you know, forever. As always, I want to thank you so much for your time. Till the next time, know your gear.